Time to spend some time. Hello, everyone. Bront, CatHerder here. We're having some fun talking Raid Shadow Legends, and there has been an awful lot of talk lately about free to play, about spending, particularly because a couple of content creators have come out and said that they are not going to spend any money in January. And to be fair, that is fine. I fully support them. I appreciate their opinions on this stuff. And if that's something that you feel you want to join in with, well, the support to you. If that's something you don't really care about for one way or the other, either you haven't spent in the first place or you are going to spend regardless, that's fine too. Spending is not something I really judge anybody for. People spend for all kinds of different reasons. People choose to not spend for all kinds of different reasons. And it's not necessarily because they have or don't have the money, or even because they just don't want to spend or do want to spend. There's a lot that goes into spending, but it is more simple than simply people who spend versus people that are free to play have different views of the game. So I wanted to talk just a little bit about it, particularly as somebody who has done takeovers for people that are free to play, has done takeovers for people that whale out, and as somebody that generally kind of toes the line for light spending, where I spend just a little bit in the game and it's enough for me to enjoy the game without really feeling like I'm spending too much money. So we'll talk about it a little bit. I'll run some stuff in the background. We'll have some fun. It should be an interesting conversation. So here's the thing that a lot of people can get wrong about free to plays versus spenders. A lot of people tend to assume that a free to play player doesn't have a lot of resources, doesn't have a good account, or is struggling with their account because they're free to play. And that is wholly not true. Free to play players come in all shapes and all sizes. Free to play players have spent years playing the game, have spent time crafting their account and molding their account. And there are some free to play players that compete in high end arena. There are free to play players that set records. There are free to play players that do amazing things in the game that are able to beat every single piece of content in the game. And they're still free to play. And there's nothing wrong with those free to play players. That's fine. There are whales that also can complete all of the content, that know everything that they're doing, are top level competitors in arena and in other areas of the game. And they know the game well, and they choose to spend for a number of reasons, possibly because it may make the game a little bit easier for them, or possibly just because it gets them the things that they want to play with, because they want to play in the ultra high end level. So just because you are a spender, or just because you are free to play, doesn't mean you don't know the game, and also doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be struggling piecing things together. One of the ways that Raid balances the game is that as you progress, chunks of the game will get easier for you. For example, here I'm able to farm Sand Devil because it's what I need, and this is not because I spent money that I can run this thing. I can run this on a free-to-play account as well. I've built this team for free-to-play accounts, and they are able to run it just as easily as my account that's a mild spender. Now, there are certainly some endgame teams that can run this incredibly quickly in 30 seconds, but those teams are not necessarily people that spend. They just happen to have the right champions and the right gear to be able to build the team. I have the gear. I don't have the right champions. Specifically, I'm missing a Riho from that kind of team. And maybe I could get one to work if I really wanted to, but I'm happy with this team and enjoy farming with it. And that's ultimately the final thing too, is sometimes people are just happy with what they're doing and where they are in the game, and just either aren't going to invest the time or the money in progressing their account. That brings me to one of the other things about this game, that time investment can be just as important, if not more important, than money investment. If you're simply spending money trying to solve problems, and you're not actually spending the time to learn the game, you're not spending the time to invest in farming what you need to farm, or running the things you need to run to improve your account's not going to improve, and there are free-to-play players that are going to advance faster than you. On the other hand, as a free-to-play player, sometimes you are going to hit a wall where whatever else what you do, you just need to spend more time. And because you can't spend money to get more energy, you are not going to be able to speed up that time frame to be able to do things like farm to get better gear, or maybe pull for a particular champion because you have to plan for it a little bit better. But it's one of the things that I think a lot of people don't understand is how much time investment can actually affect what you're doing in the game and how much you can progress in the game. Knowing you can spend enough time to manual things, knowing you can spend enough time to tweak things very carefully, and you can spend the effort to not waste some of your energy somewhere or just direct your account in the right area can save you an awful lot of time, and that can progress your account an awful lot. Finally, there is also studying the game as well. Some people know the game very well, some people don't, and that's fine either way. There's a reason that people like me make videos. I like the game, I know the game fairly well, and I want to make sure that you understand the game better than most. So I try to teach as much as I possibly can so that you can learn something cool and then you can do something cool on your account. Because I can tell you, as somebody that doesn't have all the answers, sometimes it's just nice to be able to find a reference to say, oh, that's an interesting idea. I can use that idea and work it into my account. Sometimes you can because you've got the champions or the gear. Sometimes you can't because you don't have the champions or the gear or the time or the silver or any of whatever resource. But spending doesn't necessarily mean that you aren't going to invest the time. And it doesn't mean that because you're free to play, you're also going to invest the time to make your account much better. And that's one of the final things that I think a lot of people will fight with, is that people seem to think that free-to-play players are always going to be more efficient, that understand the best way to farm things, the best way to get the absolute most out of their energy. That's not necessarily true. Just because you're free to play doesn't mean you know how to get better out of your account than anyone else. And just because you are a spender doesn't mean that you're spending not knowing what's the best way to get everything out of your account. Sometimes you just find that, as a spender, you want to get the most out of your account. So you look for not only the best deals to get the most for your money, but then you spend to get the most out of your money. So you then are efficient with what you farm, with where you're spending your money, where you're spending your energy, where you're spending your time. It just means that sometimes there are obstacles that you can spend to get past because you can get some resources just a little bit quicker than a free-to-play. That also doesn't mean that a free-to-play doesn't have any resources. Free-to-play players that are smart with their resources and are very careful with where they expend things like shards, gems, energy refills, and even things like gear rerolls can find that they can have all the resources they need to pivot their account whenever they need to. So when they do pull some amazing champion on their account, they can build it right away. Or if they need to go for a fusion, they've got the resources to do it. A free-to-play player is capable of making every fusion in the game. Doesn't mean they should, but they're capable of doing it because the game, and the end game at least, gives you enough resources to keep doing every fusion. That said, sometimes it's actually a good idea to stop. Sometimes it's a good idea to just kind of pause and see, do I really want to force myself on this fusion? Much like a spender may choose to skip on a fusion because they just decide it's not worth their effort and their energy as well. So overall, I just kind of wanted to make a quick little video kind of talking about free to play and spending. It really isn't a one versus the other. There's a lot of common ground. I mean, to be fair, all of us like Raid. That's why we're playing the game, especially if you're spending in the game. Hopefully you like the game because you're spending to support the game. And if you're playing free to play and spending your time there, hopefully you're enjoying the game and enjoying your time. I think that there's a lot of room for people to be free to play. There's a lot of room for people to spend, and it doesn't have to be a conflict where people that spend are accused of not knowing the game or accused of just kind of playing it easy versus the players that are free to play being accused of not necessarily knowing the game as well or not supporting the game, or even a matter of just not being able to do things that honestly, as a free to play player, you can do if you try. So I am looking forward, for example, going into this free-to-play challenge because, yes, I've been a light spender, but I was free to play for several months before I started spending. And as a light spender, it's not a huge difference in what I'm going to see in a free to play versus what I'm currently spending. What the shock for me is going to be is that I've been playing an end game account that's been kind of end game for a year and a half, 2 years. So I'm going to need to adjust my expectations as far as getting into an early game account and what an early game account is going to do. And that's going to be kind of fun because it's going to be a new kind of challenge for me. So I'm looking forward to that. So I think this free to play challenge will be a lot of fun. But don't let free to play fool you. You can be free to play and struggle with the game because you're not playing efficiently, you're not playing right. And honestly, the people that play the game like that probably are not enjoying it too much, or maybe they just need to learn a little bit. And there's plenty of whales out there that know the game, love playing the game, sink tons of time, or just sink a little bit of time, but they know the game well, so they spend so they don't have to sink all the time. But regardless, we all love Raid. At least hopefully that's why you're here. And I think we can all get along. Hey, if you enjoyed this little speech, I just figured I'd make a nice little quick video. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate all the support. I'm looking forward to the free to play challenge, and hopefully you are too. Let me know, do you spend? Are you free to play? And what kind of challenges do you face in however you've chosen to play the game? I'd love to hear them. Maybe I can make a video on ways to help you. So until the next video, I'm Bront CatHerder.